Here we go. Here we go. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the DCP Lab, the Deep Cover Lab. Uh, Trying this out on my own for the first time just to get a feel for how this might go. Going to be looking at some film. As anybody who follows me on Twitter, you can see the handle up there on the screen at Abukari, knows that that's one of my passions. So we're going to throw that up on the screen in a few minutes, but I kind of want to give a little background about this idea, and then for this DCP lab, and then set the stage a little bit for um, the film we're looking at and why we're looking at it. So it probably would have been just more logical to call this DCP film room, since I think a lot of these are, if not all of them, are going to have some film component. But the way that I think about it is when I watch, I'm always learning. I don't ever try to go into it like I know what to expect, or even that I fully understand everything that I'm seeing. I'm always learning every time I watch film, every time I am trying to get better at player evaluation. If I'm trying to understand a scheme or a technique, I'm always learning. It's almost more like an experiment. And so that's what kind of drove me towards the name lab for these, because we'll be doing that together. Obviously I will have looked at probably a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing in advance, kind of have some thoughts or some notes on it that I've already kind of formulated, but some of it might not be as scripted as that. And we really will be experimenting and learning together. And if, for those of you who are out of school like me, been out for a while, uh, think back to science, right? Think about those lab days and experiments, right? You go in with an idea, a hypothesis of what you think might happen or what you're expecting to happen, but you don't really know all the time. Sometimes you get what you expected, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you make some mistakes, but you're always learning, right? You learn from those mistakes, and um, kind of like science, I'm hoping with this, so many great discoveries have come unintentionally, whether it was from a mistake or even just an unintended kind of thing where somebody just was like, "Hey, I didn't expect that to happen," and those things go on to become tremendous discoveries and serve all kinds of purposes and uses. So I'm hoping some of that comes out of this, right? We go in the lab, we experiment, we go in there with maybe some ideas of what we think is going to happen, what we think we're going to see on film, but then we come out of it learning something, and probably seeing some things and learning some things we didn't expect. And hopefully we can all grow and have our own individual sort of discoveries out of that. So that's a little bit on this concept for the show. Uh, about the film we're going to watch, let me share my screen up here. This actually came from one of my partners on crime, King Moose at Yoshi 2052 on Twitter. Um, he was sharing some data that really he was prompted to look at because of a comment that Greg Roman made. Apparently, he was on a PSL call the other day with season ticket holders, and he talked about wanting to have Lamar under center a little more often. So King Moose, being the data uh, genius extraordinaire that he is, was able to kind of pull up those under center snaps from the 2020 season, and you can see there was only 30 of them, so there weren't a ton of them. But what we're going to be looking at on film is those highlighted rows you see. He uh, highlighted the under center plays, and all five of these were runs where there was 10 or more yards to go. These all just happened to be 10 yards to go. Actually, I think 4 out of 5 of them are first and 10. There's one that's second and 10 there at the end. They said most of the other plays were in short yardage situations, and you can kind of see that on the screen if you look at the to go column there. Count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns to go. You'll see the yardage they had to gain to go, and almost everything there is 1 or 2 yards, except for the plays that he highlighted. So we're going to take a look at those just to see what we can learn. Remember, we're in the lab, so we're going to do a little experimentation here. So shout out to King Moose, as always, one of the best, probably the best in Ravens Twitter for sure, when it comes to data and organizing data. And for my money, there's a lot of other good folks out there, but he's helped me out tremendously. Always is quick to provide information, because I joke with him, all I do is ask questions, and he typically helps me find answers. So, I really appreciate him for that. So let's jump into the film and take a look at some of these plays. So I don't have a clicker. Wish I did, but because I don't, my sort of maneuvering around the film skills, they are what they are. So you're probably going to have to bear with me a little bit on that as we pause and go forward and jump back and all of those sorts of things. So um, we're doing this chronologically, right? Just in terms of the games and where they occurred in the season. So we're going to start. Our first three plays are actually in the I think it was the week 11 Titans game. And I'll let it run first. We can see the situation here. It's 1st and 10, ball on the Ravens 41. We'll just watch the play first, then we'll maybe take it back a little bit, talk about some specific things that I see. So you see Lamar under center, obviously. You see how JK actually almost really pops that for an even longer run. Was a 10-yard gain, I think. Yeah, 11, excuse me, 11-yard gain, and actually could have gone for longer. But let's take a look at some of the things that we see here. So if you look at the Ravens, and uh, might be a little clearer from the tight shot, but we'll look at it here because I think you can see it too. You can see the personnel that they're in right now, right? 22 personnel. For those who aren't familiar with that way of describing the personnel on the field, the first digit in the 22 refers to the number of running backs on the field. So we've got J.K. Dobbins and we got Pat Ricard. We're treating Pat Ricard as a fullback, so he's getting in that running back calculation there. So that's the first digit, and the second digit is a number of tight ends. And you can see down here to the right, we got 2 tight ends. Looks like Mark Andrews and maybe Eric Tomlinson. I think that's 82. We'll see it from the tight shot, right? So you've got this big personnel on the field. It looks like the Titans are going to counter that with their base personnel. We'll be able to get a better look from from the tight shot, but I want to say they got four defensive linemen, 3 linebackers in there, and of course 2 corners, 2 safeties. So right away you see kind of what being in this personnel, with the personnel that the Ravens are in, what that causes the Titans to do in terms of matching personnel. Another thing you'll see is, at least at the pre-snap look, you got that one high safety look, right? Safety right back here. So I think another thing that this look and being under center can do is maybe give you some more predictable coverages. Now, post snap, things can change, guys can drop out and do all kinds of crazy things, but at least pre snap, we think that we're getting a somewhat predictable look. At least there'll probably be a handful of coverages that we think we might get out of this, instead of the entire universe of what the team might do coverage wise. Another thing you can see, let's just assume for this, and we'll let it play again to kind of confirm, is your outside wide receiver, the only receiver you have on the field. He's probably going to have a one-on-one matchup out there. So that's another situation that you probably like as an offensive coordinator. Let's let this run, and we'll take a look at what I think the actual concept is. It'll probably be a little clearer to see that from the tight shot. I think this is duo, where you're going to get 2 double teams. Sometimes you can get as many as 3 double teams, but right here you see a double team Um, let's go back, make sure I get that right. You see a double team with the right guard and right tackle, and you probably would expect to see one here with the center and left guard. But I think what you see is Bradley Bozeman sees 58 out here, and there's the potential that he's going to kind of spike inside, and you can also see he's got his right hand out to kind of feel where 90 is. Probably feels like the center is in pretty good shape to take him, so he feels like he can maybe go a little earlier, and that's what he does. Kind of climbs up to 58 on the second level, and so you can see how JK almost pops that thing. And I really think his read is probably that Mike linebacker, number 54. You can see how he sort of cuts off of where he goes. It's kind of reading him and making his decision in terms of his cut based on where that linebacker goes. So another thing that I think I wanted to pause and talk about here is um, you see the number of players that you're getting up near the line of scrimmage, right? You can just count the guys: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly, a ninth guy, depending on how much closer that guy were to walk down. So you're looking at an 8 to 9 man box. So again, when you think back to that wide shot that we started out with, you got that single high safety, you got these 9 guys down. This turns out to be a run, but if it were play action, you're probably going to have um, some space out there for your wide receiver to operate. And sort of related to that, let's go back to that wide shot, is with that single high safety. Look, just watch his reaction, right? So right as the ball is handed off, and maybe I'll even back up a little bit more, you can see he's starting to come downhill, reading run. And if nothing else, even if you don't necessarily get that from the safety with your run action, because I think if we go back, I needed to probably pause that a little bit sooner to really kind of illustrate this point. You really want to look at it before the handoff, right? Because this is the point at which, the safety's not really able to confirm is it run or pass. If nothing else, he's flat footed, right? He's not backpedaling, he's not getting any depth. So if you do have a situation where you have this one-on-one outside, and there's cushion here in this case between the wide receiver and the DB, but let's say the DB, hypothetically was up closer to this wide receiver and pressing, or even being off a little bit. I mean, you can see he's even flat-footed to even, kind of taking a step in as he's reading run. That gives your wide receiver an opportunity to uh, get behind those guys, right? Because he's going to be coming at them with a head of steam, building up a head of steam, and those guys are flat footed, right? So that's an advantage there that you might be able to take. Um, you might be able to capitalize on with play action off of this. One other thing to think about here, too, with Lamar, and we all know how dangerous he is as a runner with the ball in his hands, is think about the contain on these plays, right? Now, that's just a straight handoff. He's not kind of giving you any of that boot action after the handoff. But I think we're going to see that on at least one or maybe a couple of these other plays. You'll see that boot action. Think about these backside contain guys, the guys on the opposite side of where the ball is being handed off. If they really come down hard and feel hard inside against the run action, and Lamar can kind of finish that boot and keep the ball and get out there on the edge, maybe with this wide receiver at the top as a blocker for him, he's going to have some space. And if he can get to that edge and kind of get in that seam, could be trouble for the defense. We've seen Lamar rip off long runs time and time again, and you get him with maybe only one or two defenders, a corner and a safety, and that corner possibly, hopefully, being blocked by a wide receiver. One-on-one with that safety in space, you really like that matchup. I think you'll take that anytime as the Ravens offensive coordinator. So we'll let this one run out, and we'll go to the next one. And I think the next play will just be later You see that lead block by Ricard there, just kind of burying his linebacker. A little later in the same game, still in the second quarter, a little over 6 minutes. Another 1st and 10 situation, ball on the Titans 11, I believe. So here, let's pause it, and you get a little bit of a different, see, pre-snap look here. Here you get a little bit more of a split safety look, and probably not quite as many guys um, up in the box as that other look, but it's not that different if you think about it from this standpoint. You've still kind of got um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, guys down. So you're looking at a 7-man box. But then, even though you're talking about split safeties now, look at where they are in relation to the line of scrimmage. I mean, these guys are probably 7 to 8 yards off the ball, so they're sitting pretty low, as opposed to, where they might be at 12 yards or even deeper with a single high safety. Oftentimes they're like 15 back there, 15 yards back. So see those guys sitting down a little bit lower. And so we'll let this one run. This is another handoff. The other thing that you could see up there was, sorry, I went back a little too far, the relation to the cornerback related to the defense, to the wide receiver. We talked about this earlier, a little bit tighter coverage there on this look pre-snap. And I think this is going to be another duo run. Let's see if we get those double teams again. We get a double team between the center and the right guard, get a double team between the tackle and the first tight end there, and looks like you're on your way to getting another double team up out there on the left side with the left guard and the left tackle. But again, Bozeman's probably got his eyes on 58. Yeah, and he has to come off 90 pretty quick, kind of just hand checks him. And when he sees 58 coming, kind of wants to get a piece of him. So again, similar concept. The double teams are going to work out differently just depending on how the defensive front aligns. But you're typically going to see 2 to 3 double teams. And again, you've got Ricard as a lead blocker, and JK kind of reading that Mike linebacker number 54 again and cutting off of wherever he goes. And you can see that safety feel. Let's go back to the 37. So again, flat-footed, reading run. Obviously, they're here in the low red zone, but you could certainly still have a play action opportunity down here. And then obviously he's coming downhill to fill. And so that could create another good situation for a wide receiver out there, not having to worry about that safety who's starting flat-footed, but then coming downhill to fill against the run action. So let's go on to the next play. Same game, third quarter, another 1st and 10, ball on the Ravens 36. And I went a little too far. Let me go back. So pre-snap, kind of see something similar to what we saw in that first play, that single high safety look. Like I said, he's back at probably about 12 yards off the ball. And again, just reiterating that point, you're probably thinking, we at least have some level of maybe predictability with these looks that we're going to get from the defense, the personnel we're going to get from the defense, and probably how they're going to play these runs. Should have mentioned that last play was also 22 personnel for the Ravens. Let's see about this one. Yeah, you can get a clearer look because they're from behind on this tight shot. So same thing, 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. Let's see if this is duo again. We get the pretty quick double team between the center and the right guard. Another double team here between the right tackle and the tight end. I think you see Makari coming off this one pretty quick because the guy over Powers goes to sort of Powers, outside or to his right. And so that tells Makari that, he's probably got him and I can get up to the linebacker a little quicker, which he does. And this, that's, let's look at that a couple times. Just amazing stuff from JK. He's got this unblocked safety that's 37 again, filling feeling really quick. He's actually down a little closer to the line of scrimmage this time around, basically down in the box, essentially just outside this hash. And JK makes him miss and is almost able to maintain his balance. Uses that hand, that kickstand, kind of help him maintain his balance. Uh, it's just amazing to see what he can do in terms of contact balance and running through contact. So let's go on to the next play. Here we are. We're in the Cleveland game. This is that second Cleveland game, week 14, maybe. We're in the first quarter. A little over 7 minutes have gone by. I'm sorry, 7:25 on the clock. First and 10 situation. Ball on the Ravens 43, and there we go, right? We see a similar situation from the Ravens and from the defense. So you got that single high safety, Cleveland playing their safety back a little deeper than the Titans. He's probably more like 14, 15 yards off the ball there. And, again, we're seeing kind of the base personnel. We'll be able to see it from the tight shot a little better, but we've got 4 down linemen in here. We've got a linebacker here, a linebacker here, a linebacker here, and then a safety down right here. So let's see what we get. Same thing in terms of kind of what the safety's doing before the ball is handed off, right? He's still reading run or pass, but again, look where he's at. He's flat-footed to maybe even taking that read step, that first step forward. So again, if you've got this one wide receiver outside, in this case, it happens to be Willie Snead. And again, this is a run. These are all runs. None of these were play action. But you see the potential opportunity there for play action and getting that wide receiver down the field. This time, another handoff, but this time it's to Gus Edwards. Let's look at it from the tight. So this time, personnel is a little bit different. We've got 2 running backs in the game again, but we've got 6 offensive linemen, basically using Skura over here, number 68, as an extra tight end. And here's Tomlinson, I believe, over here. So, defenses have to figure out how they want to treat that as they're, game planning and preparing during the week. Do they want to treat this like 22 personnel? Do they want to treat it as something else in terms of personnel and how they want to line up to it? But like we said, we talked about it from the wide shot, but here in the tight, you can see this is pretty much base personnel on the field for Cleveland. And I think this is a counter type of concept, if I'm not mistaken, because you're going to get the fullback and the right guard pulling to the left. And Gus takes it up inside. So, people call that different things. I probably would call that like counter HT, using the H to refer to Ricard as like an H-back. I'm sorry, GH probably I would call it actually, because it's a counter with the guard pulling, not the tackle involved in this one. So yeah, I'd probably say counter GH because you've got the right guard pulling, and then you've also got Ricard involved, and you're going to see this combo on this nose shade. Well, he bumps to like a 2-eye there at the end. Oh, actually, did they still combo him? Believe they did. Yeah, so you see the combo working him. Pre-snap, they're going to ID these backers. They're going to ID a point, and then everything else is kind of going to work off that point in terms of how the blocking scheme is going to unfold. So ideally, I think when they combo off of this 2-eye, they want to work back to 42, who, even though he's a safety based on where he was aligned pre-snap, they're just going to treat him like one of the backers. So you're going to see the combo on the 2-eye. You're going to see the down back block here, kind of hinge in the B gap on this backside guy. Phillips, I think, is kind of going to hold up and look to see if there's anything coming off the edge there. And then, you can see these guys looking to, the first blocker there looking to kick out, and the other blocker looking to lead up into that C gap. Browns do a pretty good job kind of boxing all of that in and forcing the running back to cut back inside. But I think he still got um, a 4-yard gain on that, I think. Yeah. So here's our last play. Second Bengals game, week 17. We're in the second quarter. Our first, second and 10, first and only of this group of plays, second and 10 situation. Ball's on the Ravens 7, I believe. Yep. And now let's kind of pause it here, take a look at our pre-stack look. Now you can see the Ravens actually start out in pistol here, or what I call pistol strong, because you have not only JK kind of in that pistol alignment behind Lamar, but you also have Ricard kind of offset. So I call that pistol strong. Of course, there could who I don't know what they call it. This is just my own terminology for when I chart plays and stuff. But you can see the Bengals are kind of showing that split safety look that we saw from the Titans on that one play when the Ravens were down kind of in their low red zone. And you can see they don't have it packed in quite as much as we've seen from the Titans and the Browns. They've got their base personnel in. We got the 3 linebackers on this level, a 4 D line. But this is kind of probably more of what you would see on a first and 10. But this is a second and 10 situation. Um, you know, you're going to look at your tendencies to tell you how much the Ravens run or pass in this situation. So you're probably going to see guys off just a little bit more and not quite, as many guys down on the line and crammed in just because of that down and distance situation. Now you're going to see Lamar go under center, and then uh, Ricard shift over to kind of that lead fullback slot, and you can see the Bengals don't really move too much or make any too big of an adjustment with that. But again, watch the safeties right before Lamar hands the ball off. So again, flat-footed. You see the corner out here starting to kind of go into a pedal. Got Hollywood Brown out there, so he knows what that's all about. So he's got to protect himself versus that speed. Um, we'll get to the tight shot. Try to see what kind of concept we're getting and the personnel. Okay, so we got the 22 personnel again, the 2 backs, the 2 tight ends. This time Andrews inside of that's Tomlinson. 82 was not Tomlinson. I forget who 82 was for them. So my mistake there on that. 85, I believe, is Tomlinson. Let's see what we get. Get a little short motion there. Oh, looks like we're going to get a little trap play here. That's pretty cool. You see Tomlinson kind of inserting. So let me get this back so I can get this to a point where I can pause it and kind of show you why I think this is trap. Okay, so right here, you see this guy, right? This DT. Obviously, the design of the play is not to leave this particular play, because you saw it from the wide angle, is not to leave this guy unblocked, right? So they're going to trap this guy with Tomlinson coming in and kind of trying to wall him off there inside. You can see Orlando Brown immediately climbing up, kind of that veer release inside to the linebacker level, and then almost like a fold sort of block situation here with Brown and Bozeman, when Bozeman coming out to block this guy off the edge. So, and then you get your center also climbing. So you get your left tackle and your center immediately able to climb up to the linebacker level. You get your left guard to kind of fold out and block the DN, and then you're going to use your tight end to come in and trap this defensive tackle. And you've still got a lead blocker in Ricard. And let's look back to see who he gets. Okay, so he gets that third backer. So 5-yard gain, backed up. You'll take that. So that's going to do it for this first edition of the DCP Lab. I just wanted to do something quick on a topic that I thought was particularly relevant in light of Greg Roman's comments. And to show you those plays so you could see actually what they ran in some of those under center situations when they had, sort of normal down and distance. It wasn't short yardage, but also to get you to think about the possibilities, right? And why Greg Roman might say, I'd like to get Lamar Jackson under center a little bit more, right? Because we talked through and we saw the kind of looks they were getting from the defense with Lamar Jackson under center and the personnel that the Ravens had in the game. And then what possibilities that might open up in terms of play action, in terms of Lamar maybe keeping on a boot fake after, faking the handoff to the running back. So, you can see why they'd want to do that a little bit more. And, Roman talked about how it just brings a little bit more balance to the offense, which it does, but it also gives you some different ways to take advantage and attack defenses. So I think that's something you're always looking to do. Obviously, they've had the same offensive coordinator now going into the third season. And, teams have now seen this offense for 2 years now. And so you're always trying to kind of evolve in some ways and do some things in some different ways. You're always going to have your core stuff that you do that you really hang your hat on, but you have to kind of continue to evolve to stay ahead of that curve, so that you can keep defenses on their heels and that you can always be the aggressor and kind of be the one in attack mode. So um, hope you've enjoyed this one. Definitely subscribe, like, leave me your feedback. I'll try to do more of these. Probably will be similar to this, just where there's something that's kind of relevant or recent that's happened that I think there might be some film that can help kind of illustrate a point or comment or something like that. Or other times it might just be something random. Again, we're in the lab, so we're experimenting, and we're going to see what we get. But thanks for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next time.